going to be making a non-traditional version of a traditional dish that my family brought over from Europe. It is for a pork pie. Originally, it was taking pork butts and grinding them 3 times and doing all kinds of things. There were reasons for that back in the old days. But I'm going to be showing you a shortcut on making a pie crust. In modern recipes, there are a lot more spices because there are more spices available to us. The recipe has been altered many, many times. And so I do use other things like mustard, ginger, sage. So it's just a little bit different. But again, it's for today's palate. It's not for what was available back in the old days up in Canada. Hope you enjoy. Try this recipe, and if you like it, there is also a recipe that I put for a salmon pie, and that's also on my channel. These are the ingredients for a non-traditional meat pie. We're making it a bit more savory, but just so you can see, that's what I'm putting in. To start out with, you take an onion, and it's going to be finely chopped. If you hear that noise in the background, it's just I have 3 dogs, and they decided that this is playtime. The original recipe is not the most heart healthy. I didn't want to add more fat than there already is in the pork meat. And it doesn't matter whether you're using a red onion or a yellow onion or a white onion. It just needs to be onion. And at that, I'm going to turn this on kind of a medium-low just to get it started, because at this point I also need to chop the garlic. So I'm not using a lot of garlic because I don't want it to overwhelm the flavors of the spices, and you want to just kind of smash it, make sure there's no extra skin on there, which there was. Add the garlic into the pan. Quick stir. And I'm not trying to pre-cook the onion because the pork will be being put in here. You can use fresh or frozen meat. I used frozen this time because I bought it about a week ago. Making it into small pieces as you grate it off of the original piece. Just keep turning this over and grating it. As you go. That's about 1 1/4 pounds of pork, and I believe that the reason why they used to do the pork butts ground 3 times is because they didn't have commercial meat grinders like at the store. So that's why. When the meat is browned, you add 1 1/4 or 1 1/2, sorry, 1 1/2 cups of water, and you let it slow simmer for about an hour. That seems like a long time, but it's going to just sit here and simmer for about an hour. Again, the reason why is back in the old days we had problems with things like trichinosis, so you had to make sure the pork was very well cooked. But not so much a problem now, so it might not even take an hour. But that's just going to sit there. I'm not going to cover it because I want the steam to evaporate some of the liquid. And as it's cooking, you watch it and see if it starts running out of water, and you just add a little bit more. While this is simmering, it's a perfect time to clean up the kitchen, and also you can prepare your potatoes. So I'm using 4 large potatoes, which are going to be peeled. They're going to be rinsed, cubed, and then they are going to be boiled. So that'll just be sitting there while the meat is simmering. Everything has a method. I use a parchment paper to keep my peels on as I'm peeling carrots or potatoes, just because it's easier to clean up after. I'm going to make the potatoes too small because they are going to be boiled, and you do want some pieces of potato still visible in your pie. While the potatoes are boiling to get soft and the meat is sitting here simmering, just give it a quick stir. You add in, this is clove, but this is my clove. You can tell it's a slightly different color. But that would be a half teaspoon of clove and a teaspoon of cinnamon. You just want to check potatoes. Not ready yet, almost. Up to here, this is the original recipe. I'm just going to let that sit. In my last video, I showed you how to make a pie crust, but this is one that's a pre-made pie crust kind of powder that I bought at the store. There's a number of different manufacturers. And with that, 5 tablespoons of cold water. It's actually 5 to 6. And you just stir. Divide this up into 2 balls. That'll be the bottom crust and the top crust. And for now, I'm going to put these in a different bowl and put them in the refrigerator. Drain the potatoes. While the potatoes are cooling, I'm going to put in a dash of ginger, which would be about a quarter of a teaspoon. Ground or freshly chopped sage, quarter of a teaspoon. Quarter of a teaspoon of mustard powder. Quarter of a teaspoon of allspice. And no, my measurements aren't precise, that's fine. And nutmeg. Give that a stir. It smells amazing. Oh, it's got another 10 minutes to just sit here. At that point, I'm going to drain any fat that's still in here because, again, we don't need that. And then this is going to the large bowl mixed in with the potatoes, which I'm going to walk you through. Oh, a large piece of onion. I don't want that. There. So, yeah, next step, we have to make the crust. Before I actually start to roll out the crust, I'm going to take 1 egg and beat it. and set it aside. And then it's time for flour. And let's see how much liquid's left in here. Not much. You want to make sure that when you're using a piece of pork, you're not getting something that's really fatty, because you also, at that point, at this time, you'd have to drain the fat off. Into this bowl, I put about 1.25 cups of potato. I'm not going to mash it to death. I'm going to put in all of the cooked meat. This is what it's going to look like. And you add your meat mixture into your pie crust. Keep an eye on the edges. You want to make sure you get right to the edge. Turn on your oven. Bake at 400 degrees. And that's going to be for about 45 minutes. Some people roll out both crusts. I don't. The reason I don't is because one of them can dry out while you're preparing your food. And I don't like cracked crusts. I wish spammers would stop spamming me while I'm doing things. There, declined. I use egg wash on the crust. Most people don't do this. I don't know why. But it helps seal the top and bottom crusts better. Just make sure it's all sealed. And then brush the whole thing with an egg wash. And put some parsley on the top just because it looks nice. It also helps when you freeze it to let you know that this was a savory pie, not an apple pie or a cherry pie. But just cut a few holes in it so it can breathe. It's ready to go in the oven.